everyone. I have somebody really, 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 really amazing to talk to you today. Her name is Britt Bolnick. I interviewed her once and I was like, okay, we have chemistry. So I'm going to do this with you again. She's fantastic. You're going to love her. She is a successful business owner and magic maker, living a life she loves in Maine. She supports magical, multi-passionate women, business owners, and mission-based entrepreneurs to do the work they love but are struggling to manage the business size and the time management. And she's coming out with a brand new book. I just saw the cover. It's gorgeous. It's called The Magic of Bending Time in Your Sacred Business. It's coming out in May. I'm going to let you guys know more details as that gets closer. But without further ado, welcome, Britt.
Thank you so much for having me. I've been looking forward to this so much. I love talking to you.
You are amazing. Can you share with me a little bit about your amazing journey? I know some people, I've already introduced you somewhat to my community, but you have such an amazing story that started out in New York where I lived for 8 years. I want you to share that with everybody.
So there are so many different branches to the story. I guess I'll nutshell. In-arms coaching began. I grew up in New York City in the wild, wild west of the 70s and 80s, pre-Giuliani, when it was quite a different place than what it is today. The business side of the story really started about 15 years ago when I was it was such a sucky time. I had a baby. I had my first and only child. Her dad left with a dog walker, a 23-year-old dog walker, when the kid was like about 15 months old. So there I was with a clingy 2-year-old on food stamps, on government cheese, lost a building that I had invested in. I had a little bit of money from a lawsuit. So I figured, like, what do you do if you're smart and you have a little bit of money? You buy a building in New York City, right? How could that possibly go wrong? Well, it went wrong. It was foreclosed on and we lost the building. And the kid and I wound up living with my mom in the bedroom that I grew up in. And I was waitressing and bartending, and it was just really unsustainable. And I was really unhappy. And, as much fun as it can be to serve burgers and beer, it wasn't my calling. So in-arms coaching really started from that, like, real bottom of the barrel, the dark nights of the soul, and just clawing my way up to building a life where I got to do the work that I wanted on my own terms. And here we are 15 years later, living this amazing life in Maine with this great guy. And the kid has a stepsister that she loves, and there are dogs, and a nonprofit, which my husband and I started 4 years ago. And then this summer, we're actually opening my third business, which is really exciting. So
that is awesome. That's
yeah,
awesome.
it's really fun.
I can't tell you how much I love listening to stories like that. I think that a lot of us have started businesses while we're going through that, whatever, Saturn, return, or I don't know exactly what it was for me, but it was there too, where I was at probably the lowest of the low, that I figured out that, if I'm not going to live my life, just not in alignment with what is really right for me and true for me. So I love that you are one of the people who actually did it and made a success out of it. One thing I loved about our last conversation is that you said that you did it gradually, right? You didn't just like dive into it and, you had obviously other responsibilities, right? You had a child and you gradually built up your business. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah. And I'll tell you, it's not anything like wonderful. Like, I am a dive in sort of person. When my husband and I decided to start the third business, I was like, oh yeah, now. And he's like, no, babe, not now. First, we lay the track work. And I was like, oh, so it wasn't anything wonderful about me. I wanted it all instantly. And it was actually very frustrating to have to grow it slowly. But I had to grow it slowly because I only had a couple hours a week in those beginning years. I only had a couple hours a week where I wasn't either holding a crying toddler or serving burgers and beer or trying to sleep 4 to 5 nights a week, 4 to 5 hours a night. So it had to grow really slowly. And that was really hard because all around me, I saw women who weren't in my situation, who were just like, boom, business, clients, income. And it was so frustrating. So it was really by design that I built it. But yeah, it went really slowly, and it only happened because I had support. And I think that one of the saving pieces was that I understood right away that I needed support. In those days, I took 2 or 3 extra shifts a month to be able to afford a coach, because I knew I couldn't do it alone. And I also knew that while I actually had a great skill set as a coach, I had zero business skills. Being a
Right.
great coach doesn't mean that you know how to build a business coaching. And that's like, having a skill set doesn't mean that you know how to grow a business doing that thing.
Right.
And that was what I really came into, where I needed business support to understand how to just get the thing that I was good at to the
Mhm.
people who would value it.
Right. It's learning to how to actually make it a business. Right. And as were growing your business and you had all of these things that you were, juggling, right? Your personal life, obviously making an income. I would say most people, are in that position, right? Where they are still working a full-time job and
Yeah.
kind of like, I want to grow this business, but I only have a couple of hours. And then life starts to happen and my mother needs me, or, something breaks down, and like life is always going to happen while
Yeah.
you're building your business. What do you have to say about that?
I love that question, because you're right. Like, no one ever is like, I have $1 million in the bank and nothing to do with my time. I mean, maybe I don't know. I've never heard of anyone who's like, yeah, let me start a business, totally funded, have all the time in the world. So it becomes this piece of like, honestly, first of all, you really have to look at how committed you are. There are women who come to me who say they're thinking about a business, or they might. That's not enough. It's kind of like a marriage. If you're not all in, just don't do it, because you have to be all in. You have to be willing to roll up your sleeves, and you have to be willing to roll with the punches that are going to come. There are going to be great days and there are going to be super sucky days, and you have to be just as committed during those super sucky days. So I think that, really what it's about is, you're not going to build your business with nothing going wrong
Yeah.
or with no time constraints. You have to understand what to do to build your business with time constraints, with personal crises. I have women who, throughout the years, there have been a couple of women who have asked to leave my programs because something happened. And I'm like, listen, I built this through having a toddler sobbing and clinging to my leg. I built it through moving cities. I built it through breakups. I built it through, so much personal drama, because there was never any plan B. This
Right.
was the
Yeah.
thing. So you kind of have to commit the same way you do with anything that you really want to pay off in richness for you.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah.
And then you have to get the support that allows you to,
Mhm.
to feel supported, even though it might not be going the way that you like, or it might not be fun at that moment.
Exactly. And it is, getting the support and going, 100% into this does help you figure out whether this is really for you, right?
Yeah.
Because that is a question that you have to answer.
Yeah, it's so funny. When I first got married, I remember this night where we had like this, just like a really crappy fight or something. And I just wanted to be like, I'm a real, like, fine, F you, and like storm out of the room kind of person. That's kind of my MO. And I remember just looking at him and being like, oh, like, we have to work this out because we made a commitment.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I had that like revelation in my marriage. I've never gotten to that point in my business. It's always been like, I wake up in the morning, my business and I had a huge fight, and I'm like, all right, babe, how are we going to fix it today?
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a great analogy. I love that. So let's talk about the other difficult part that people struggle with besides committing fully and, rolling with whatever life is bringing as you're building your business.
Yeah.
Visibility, right?
So huge.
Visibility. That
Huge.
word has been out there for, the last, decade, and
Yeah.
people are still struggling with it, right? And
Oh,
so
yeah.
what do you see in your practice that is the most difficult thing about women becoming visible in their business?
I love this question. I will say, first of all, that this is one of the predominant differences between how women build businesses and how men. And I don't work with many men, but I'm betting that visibility is not a huge struggle point for them. And it is for every single woman I've ever worked with, including myself. And one of the things that I'll say is that, visibility is this thing where you really can't bulldoze through it. You really can't Like if a client comes to me and she has a huge problem with visibility and she's like, just give me the marketing tool, just tell me the strategy. Well, I can give her the best, most effective, like 100 proof results strategy, and she will sabotage it if
Yeah.
she's not really looking at this. So visibility is a really fascinating subject because the outer tools won't work if there's an inner piece. And one of the things that I like to say is that there is not a single woman in this world, no matter your religion, your ethnic background, your economic background, there's not a woman in this world who has not grown up to some extent being taught to fear being visible.
Mm,
And that is something that you absolutely have to take into account when you're building a business. And it could be visibility claiming your expertise. It could be visibility as a leader. It could be visibility in declaring the worth of the work that you're doing and the transformation you're providing. It comes up in so many different ways. It comes up in marketing. It comes up in pricing your offerings. It comes up in establishing yourself as a leader in your field or an expert in your area. It is so pervasive and you just can't bulldoze it. You really have to understand what's uncomfortable for you personally, for each woman, about being visible, and then kind of embrace it and work with it. Because if you try to bulldoze it, you're just going to sabotage over
yeah.
and over again.
Absolutely. Right. So the mindset piece needs to happen before you start putting yourself out there, videos, posts.
Yeah, the mindset and the understanding. Like we each have our own reasons that it's uncomfortable, or our own things that we were taught, and it's so varied. It's so fascinating to me to hear all the reasons that we have, or all the blocks that we have to being visible. For me, I grew up in 1980s New York City. When I was 12, men were terrifying me on the street, saying things to me. So I learned to walk hunched over. I learned to keep my headphones on. I learned to not make eye contact. It's still really hard for me to meet people and make eye contact because I learned not to do it. So
Right.
I had to really yeah. And so I had to understand that it's not just enough for me to like force myself to make eye contact. I have to remember what
Mm,
was scary, and I have to help myself understand that that's not where I am anymore. I'm not going to be attacked. I'm not going to be, a target because I make eye contact and let myself be visible.
right. So can you share some, besides the first step being, understanding why visibility may be scary to you? What do you say, what do you think should be done next once you have that knowledge?
Yeah. So first of all, I will say that I think it's really unwise to DIY this completely. Often, my best friend, who I just got off an interview with, she has this saying that isn't hers, but neither of us remember where it originally came from. But she says you can't read the label from inside the jar. So if you're stuck, get support, because there are probably things that you're not seeing about how you're stuck. The next thing that I'll say is that it really helps to stay as connected to your mission as possible. I remember I had a woman at a retreat one year and we were talking about visibility. It was a retreat that's actually focused, the theme was visibility that year. And she had been a client for a while, and we were talking about her messaging, we were talking about her hook, we were talking about promotions for a program she was running, and she was just sitting there sobbing. She was so uncomfortable. And then I do retreats 3 times a year. So she came back about 3 or 4 months later, and she said that it had completely been eliminated for her, that discomfort. And what she had done, which is one of the things that I like to take women through, is she had really connected to the mission and the vision of what she was doing. And she had asked to be a channel for it. So
Mm,
it was less about her as it was about the change that she wanted to see for the world and the transformation that she wanted to provide for her clients.
yeah.
That being said, there's this like paradoxical piece where no matter who you are in this world, no matter what work you're doing, there are probably hundreds of other people who are in the same field as you are. People will choose to work with you because of who you are, and they have to be able to see you. The women who choose to work with me, it's because they know me, they like me, they're familiar with me, they understand what I stand for, because there are 50,000 million business coaches out there.
Yeah.
So it's this sort of paradox of like really staying rooted to what it is that you're a part of and how it's so much bigger than you are, that it's not about you, And then it is also very much about you and how to sort of root down and anchor in that confidence in yourself.
Absolutely. I was just talking to somebody about this earlier, where I remember it was early on in my coaching business where I put something out, and I think it was like a video or something. And when I looked at it again, I looked horrible. I was like, like I look at like, past videos, I'm like, how could I have this stuff out there? And I don't know, you have like broccoli in your teeth or like, something like you think you look horrendous, but it got such like a positive,
Yeah.
result. People connected to it. I'm like, how? And that's when I realized that they're
Yep.
really connecting with my authenticity and my, my clumsiness, my my
Yeah,
fumble.
because they're seeing you. I just did this just for fun. I did a 30 videos in 30 days like challenge just for myself.
Mhm.
And obviously, I'm a business coach. So my thought was that the most effective videos would be videos on, business stuff. The
Mhm.
two that had the highest ratings, one was a tour of my bathroom, and one was me in the chicken house with the chickens. Those were the two that people couldn't get enough of. And I was like, but it's because they could really see me. And I made sure that like a lot of them were unpolished and a lot of them I was like, I just woke up, but I wanted to say something to you and I'm going to say it even though I didn't put my, mascara on and do anything with my hair yet because they're watching them because they want to see you.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. As usual, you are amazing and you share so many amazing little nuggets.
Thank
Um,
you. So
can
fun to
you
be here.
tell everybody about this amazing book you have coming out?
I'm so in love with this book. Yeah, so the book is The Magic of Bending Time in Your Sacred Business. And it's a time management process for multi passionate women entrepreneurs and kind of witchy woo, spiritually focused women business owners. And it comes directly from the dilemma that I was in 15 years ago, where I needed to do this thing and I didn't have that much time and I had to really make sure that I was focusing on the things that were going to provide the most back for me. So it's a how-to book and it's a sort of spiritual and practical guide to understanding how to formulate time as a container for the things that you love rather than the way that most of us do it, which is trying to jam the things that we love into this thing that's totally outside of ourselves and kind of calling all the shots. And I'm so
Wow,
excited about it.
nice. It sounds like it's very much about working with energy cycles and yeah, what's
Yeah.
personal to you, right?
Yeah, and boundaries, some of the pieces around why time, every woman, this bending time and sacred structure, which is what I call my time management tool, is something that I've used from the very beginning for all of my clients. And I finally wrote a book about it. But it's something that is very much about understanding why time management hasn't worked for you before, especially if you're someone who's super creative or woo and doesn't want to feel like you have an authoritarian structure. It's really about time as a container for the things that are in your heart and how to make that switch. And I'm so excited for the birth of this book.
Oh my gosh, I'm getting it. It's coming out in May, of
Yes,
course.
May
Yeah.
13th.
The title though. I am in love with the title and the cover.
Yes, it's pretty awesome. And I do have a list up on, I think it's on my website now, or folks can always find me via Facebook, but I do have a list coming up for the launch of the book because I'm making it really fun. And there are going to be like contests and giveaways and talks and, just a whole bunch of like engaging hoopla around the book because I really want to connect with women around it so that women aren't not doing what they love and what they feel called to do because of issues with time.
Right. So we will definitely share that with everyone as it comes out. And then I want to talk to you again before it comes out. Can you let everybody know where they can find you?
Yes, totally. So I am ridiculously active on Facebook because both my business and my rescue run through it. So Britt Bolnick, I have a business page, a public page. You can also always find me at inarmscoaching.com, which is the website. And then I'm doing a little bit on Instagram. I still haven't quite, I'm old. I haven't quite mastered it, but if you're hanging out on Instagram, I am on there. And sort of hobbling my way through it. But definitely Facebook. And that link is everywhere for the book launch list.
Awesome. Britt, thank you. Thank you so, so much. I always enjoy talking to you so much. And we will link up again very soon. And we'll put the links to for people to connect with you. And then we'll get your book out to everybody when it comes out.
Yay. Thank you so much for having me. I'm always like, oh yeah, we were doing a podcast. It's so fun talking to you that I just almost forget what we're doing. So thank you again for having me back.
You're welcome. All right, everyone. We will see you next time. Bye.